I always talk about the best films I've watched at the end of the year and never ever get to highlight the films that don't make it to the list, and so I thought this would be a great opportunity to finally talk about them. I had 48 films left on my watch list. Some I didn't finish, some I wish I didn't finish, some were great, etc. I was determined to finish this watch list because some of these movies have been on my list for years, and seeing it on there was kinda depressing. But now it's all done and I get to start fresh, and I think that's really exciting. Films still on my watch list. A few of the 48 remain unwatched because they haven't been released yet, the release date was pushed back, or they're indie films or foreign films and I don't have access to it. Even though I haven't watched these films, I want to briefly talk about it because maybe it'll be a film you'll want to keep an eye out for too. It goes without saying that Wonder Woman 1984 and The Batman are on this list, so I'm just going to move on to some other ones. The Woman in the Window, directed by Joe Wright. An agoraphobic psychologist befriends a neighbor across the street from her New York City apartment, only to see her own life turned upside down when she witnesses a disturbing act of violence, and the woman disappears. This film was pushed back even before the pandemic because Disney owns Fox now, and it doesn't follow its family-friendly image. I'm watching this because fuck off Disney, and because I'm positive the acting from Amy Adams is going to be fucking incredible. The New Mutants, directed by Josh Boone. 5 young mutants, just discovering their abilities while held in a secret facility against their will, fight to escape their past sins and save themselves. This is yet another film that was pushed back because of Disney's meddling. Unfortunately for the New Mutants, it's been fighting for its release for 3 years. It's the horror superhero film I want, and I hope the world will get to see it one day. Antlers, directed by Scott Cooper. A mysterious creature escapes from its confines to wreak bloody havoc in a small Oregon town. This film caught my eye because Guillermo del Toro is one of the producers, and to me, he is the fucking best at horror. Also, the clips from this trailer alone look fantastic, and I'm excited to watch this movie. Yellow Rose, directed by Diane Paragas. An undocumented 17-year-old Filipino dreams of one day leaving her small town to pursue her music dreams. Her world is shattered when her mom suddenly gets picked up by immigrations and customs enforcement. Facing this new reality, she is forced to flee the scene, leaving behind the only life she knows, and embarks on a journey of self-discovery as she searches for a new home. Lea Salonga and Eva Noblezada are 2 Filipino actors who are huge on Broadway, and the idea of them singing and playing as a parent and child is something I did not know I needed. The Green Knight is a horror fantasy directed by David Lowery. Based on the timeless Arthurian legend, The Green Knight tells the story of King Arthur's reckless, headstrong nephew, who embarks on a daring quest to confront the eponymous Green Knight, a gigantic emerald-skinned stranger and tester of men. Gawain contends with ghosts, giants, thieves, and schemers in what becomes a deeper journey to define his character and prove his worth in the eyes of his family and the kingdom by facing the ultimate challenge. Billy and Emma, directed by Samantha Lee. Set in the mid-90s, the film tells the story of Billy, a troublemaker from the big city, who finds herself exiled to live with her aunt, who is also the town's religion teacher. Billy meets Emma, the ambitious star student, and they soon fall in love, but things get complicated when Emma finds out that she's pregnant. Together they explore the fleeting nature of love and life on this journey of growth, laughter, and music. In the Heights, directed by John M. Chu, and based on the Broadway musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This is my favorite musical, and it's so exciting to see it on a big screen. A bodega owner has mixed feelings about closing his store and retiring to the Dominican Republic after inheriting his grandmother's fortune. It is a story about being an immigrant in the United States and the exploration of identity. Best films I watched. I kept debating how much I should talk about these films, and I came to the conclusion that I wanted to make this video because 1, I want to talk about the last films on my watch list, and 2, I want to talk about the films I don't usually get to talk about. Hence, I will not talk about these films in depth. I will just pitch the movie and save my thoughts for the end of the year video. Prisoners, directed by Denis Villeneuve, one of the best directors out there. Keller Dover faces a parent's worst nightmare when his 6-year-old daughter and her friend go missing. The only lead is an old motorhome that has been parked on their street, but the lack of evidence forces the only suspect to be released. The father, knowing that his daughter's life is at stake, decides that he has no choice but to take matters into his own hands. This film will 100% keep you on the edge of your seat, and the ending is absolutely perfect. If I had to describe this film in 5 words or less, it would be Denis Villeneuve, what the fuck? Little Miss Sunshine, directed by Valerie Ferris and Jonathan Dayton. A family determined to get their young daughter into the finals of a beauty pageant take a cross-country trip in their VW bus. I don't know what the fuck a VW bus is, but that's what the summary is. This very dysfunctional family makes me very, very happy, and the good vibes will make you laugh and smile and feel happy inside. Bad Genius is a Thai film, directed by Baz Poonpiriya. Apologies, I couldn't find a pronunciation video. A genius-level high school student makes money after developing elaborate methods to help other students cheat. It is a heist film, and it's fucking brilliant. Fuck the system, fuck standard testing, go cheat. For legal reasons, and legal reasons only, I am joking. Bombshell, directed by Jay Roach. The provocative, real story of three whip-smart, ambitious, strong women who anchored one of America's most powerful news networks, becoming headlines themselves when they risked everything to stand up to the man who made them famous. The acting from Margot Robbie in this film is superb, and honestly, she deserves an Oscar nomination. This film is entirely about sexual assault in the workplace, so please prepare yourself mentally if that is something that triggers you. Contact is a critically acclaimed sci-fi film from 1997, directed by Robert Zemeckis. After years of searching, Dr. Ellie Arroway finds conclusive radio proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, setting plans for a mysterious machine. She is a scientist chosen to make some difficult decisions, struggling with her beliefs, the truth, and reality. This different take on science fiction is similar to the 2016 Denis Villeneuve film Arrival. Films I didn't like, but you might. Disclaimer, when I say I don't like it, I do not mean it's boring and I regret watching it. I just mean I feel nothing for it, and it's because of my personal preference. Mother, directed by one of my favorite directors, Bong Joon-ho. It is a Korean mystery drama. A widow lives alone with her mentally challenged son in this small Korean town. One day a girl is murdered, and the son is the prime suspect. Determined to prove her son innocent, the mother searches for evidence that her son was not the murderer. Looking at this film as a whole, it's great. The chase for clues and information, and how it all builds up to the end was just really, really great. The story should have compelled me, but for some reason I just wasn't into it. Shoplifters, directed by Hirokazu Koreda. After one of their shoplifting sessions, Osamu and his son come across a little girl in the freezing cold. At first, reluctant to shelter the girl, Osamu's wife agrees to take care of her after learning the hardships she faces. Although the family is poor, barely making enough money to survive through petty crime, they seem to live happy together until an unforeseen incident reveals hidden secrets, testing the bonds that unite them. Again, this is a movie I feel like I should have really liked. I didn't have an issue with connecting with the characters or the pacing of the story, but I still finished the movie feeling very indifferent. Films that disappointed me. There are a lot of films that disappointed me, but these three really just made me feel like I wasted hours of my life. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a film from 1968 directed by Stanley Kubrick. After discovering a mysterious artifact buried beneath the lunar surface, mankind sets off on a quest to find its origins with the help from intelligent supercomputer HAL 9000. The first 17 minutes was about apes and evolution, and I understand its significance to the film, but it was also just nothing, to be honest. And you know how your body would move slowly in space? Yeah, a lot of this film is watching things move at that speed. The only enjoyable part of this film was the special effects, particularly the practical ones, the sets, and the interactions with the evil artificial intelligence, which I was genuinely invested in, and it was only a small portion of the film, even though it is pitched as the main plot. The second movie is The Prestige, directed by Christopher Nolan. After a tragic accident, two stage magicians engage in a battle to create the ultimate illusion while sacrificing everything they have to outwit each other. Honestly, I'm using this as an excuse to call out Christopher Nolan. I do get very hyped about Nolan's films, trust me, but if you sit back and take away the glamour that comes with labeling a film as a Nolan film TM, you will see that his films do not make sense. Ever. This film in particular enables that habit because it is about magicians, and because it's magic, Nolan thinks he can do whatever the fuck he wants because it's magic and it's Christopher Nolan, and therefore it doesn't have to make sense. Fuck off, Nolan. We have brains, you cannot fool me. He also uses a trope I greatly dislike because it is an easy way out, a deus ex machina, lazy writing. There are so many things I can call it. I can't say what it is because it is a spoiler, but it is the one about Christian Bale's character. This film is riddled with lazy plot twists. So many that Nolan doesn't know how to actually execute any of them, resulting in this film being absolute garbage. An 8.5 on IMDb and a 76 on Rotten Tomatoes? You've got to be kidding! I spent 2 hours and 15 minutes seeing Scarlett Johansson on my screen and suffering for nothing. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, directed by Michael Gondry. After a painful breakup, Clementine undergoes a procedure to erase her memories of her former boyfriend from her mind. When he discovers that Clementine is going to extremes to forget the relationship, he undergoes the same procedure and slowly begins to forget the woman that he loved. My issue with this movie is that the whole concept was wasted on a mediocre plot. This movie told me not to erase memories of your breakup or if you cheated on someone. And I understand that the message is that erasing memories doesn't change who we are, so we are prone to make the same decisions or mistakes, but they could have chosen a different example. And someone did, and it's a book called More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. Now, it's not a perfect book, But what Adam Silvera did with the concept is so much more meaningful than Eternal Sunshine. Why not focus on a character who erases their sexuality or trauma or gender identity, something that is essential to the core of a person? Because More Happy Than Not's message is that your identity is not something you can erase, and I think that leaves more of an impact. Films that had potential. This is my nice way of saying I was disappointed by the film and saw room for improvement. But I still liked it. The Invisible Man, directed by Leigh Whannell. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by someone no one can see. This was one of my anticipated films, simply because Leigh Whannell directed Upgrade in 2018 and it is a fantastic film, so I had high expectations for The Invisible Man. What I love about this film is that it understands that domestic violence does not have to be explicitly shown to the audience. In the first scene alone, it establishes extreme tension and high stakes. We understand the main character's abuse without having to see the violence in front of our eyes. And I love the concept of this film because even though your abuser isn't being with you physically, their presence follow you wherever you go. And to explore that through horror is brilliant to me. What starts out as an excellent film about a woman fighting against her abuser quickly turns into a regular monster movie. The plot twists were poorly executed and showed up so late in the film that the ending felt very unsatisfying and leaves behind too many questions. If you ignore the ending, I'd say this is a very solid movie. The Assistant by Kitty Green. A searing look at a day in the life of an assistant to a powerful executive. As Jane follows her daily routine, she grows increasingly aware of the insidious abuse that threatens every aspect of her position. A lot of people compare this to Bombshell, but just because they're both about sexual assault in the workplace does not mean they need to be compared. I think they are both good respectively. The main character spends a lot of her days doing pointless, repetitive tasks, but is in constant fear of making the smallest mistake that could ruin her career. And I think that's brilliant, and I wish it was a little longer and had a little more depth. What's really cool about the screenwriting for this is that the boss, the person in power, is never really seen on screen. We feel his presence and hear his voice, and yet despite his absence, we can really feel the tension and fear she has for him. There's a scene in particular that was 10 out of 10. It was when she tried to speak up by talking to HR, and the awkwardness and condensation and intimidation used to force her into silence is incredibly done. Tiger Tail, directed by Alan Yang. A man reflects on the lost love of his youth and his long-ago journey from Taiwan to America as he begins to reconnect with his estranged daughter. The film alternates between his childhood, his adult life when he comes to the US, and his present life. The film establishes those three eras of his life and why it's so difficult for him to express his thoughts and emotions with people. But I think it would have been stronger to establish that in the first act, and then transition to him reminiscing on his life by talking to his daughter. I understand that it was set up so that we already know about his past, so that when he does talk to his daughter, we know what he's telling her. But it made me feel so disconnected to the relationship, and that was personally what I was looking forward to the most. The reconnection is the main focus of the story, but we only get glimpses of the present, so I feel that the relationship is skimmed over and I am forced to only feel invested in his past. Essentially, my critique of this film is its execution, because the story is not well balanced. Truthfully, if they were just to focus on his childhood and immigration, it would have been a stronger movie. Slice, directed by Austin Vesely. In a spooky small town, when a slew of pizza delivery boys are slain on the job, two daring survivors set out to catch the culprits behind the cryptic crime spree. I wasn't expecting anything from this film, but when I started watching it, I saw so much potential. This is a world where the existence of monsters is normal. When they started the world building in the beginning of the film, I was in love with it because it showed me how people and the government have adapted to living with ghosts and werewolves and other monsters. On top of that, this film is heavily influenced with 80s nostalgia, with its cheesy dialogue, bomber jackets, pizza delivery costumes. My biggest issue with the film is its execution. You can figure out the culprits very quickly, which could be saved by the build-up to the revelation, however, that was also very sloppy. I often question what fucking direction this film was going, despite the fact that I already knew what was supposed to happen. It felt like all the investigative work was done off-screen and we just saw everything else. And then, when I finally reached the end, I just felt nothing. There was no satisfaction. You Were Never Really Here, directed by Lynn Ramsey. A traumatized veteran, unafraid of violence, tracks down missing girls for a living. When a job spins out of control, Joe's nightmares overtake him as a conspiracy is uncovered, leading to what may be his death or his awakening. I was so invested in the little girl, and sadly she's not in the film nearly enough. The film is spent mostly focusing on the main character's trauma, and while that's not a bad thing, the execution of it did not feel like enough, like there were scenes missing, and it resulted in me barely invested in the main character. The climax of this film, the scene with the little girl in it, I loved it a lot. There's all this tension that builds up throughout the film, and this scene was emotionally gratifying. And personally, that shot of her at the end is very iconic, and I find myself thinking about it, despite the fact that I do not care about this movie. Films I really liked, but didn't make it to the best films list. Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, directed by Matt Peters and Christiana Sada. This film is very specific to a certain audience, so I won't talk about it too much. There are a series of DC animated films that have all built up to this film. Apocalypse War marks the end of an era for the DC animated universe and opens up a new universe, a new timeline. Earth is decimated after intergalactic tyrant Darkseid has devastated the Justice League in a poorly executed war by the DC superheroes. Now the remaining bastions of good, Justice League, the Teen Titans, the Suicide Squad, and assorted others must regroup, strategize, and take the war to Darkseid in order to save the planet and its surviving inhabitants. I was pleasantly surprised by this film. It was very brutal and dark as hell, like a lot more than I expected, but appropriate for this film. The pacing of this story was actually kind of perfect. I really loved the first and second acts of the film, however the third started falling into cliches. If you do watch DCAU movies, then I highly recommend this one. Also, just a quick promo, there's going to be a Justice League Dark live-action TV series on HBO Max, produced by J.J. Abrams, and I am so fucking excited for it. Keep your eyes out because it's going to be so fucking good. The Truth Beneath, directed and written by Lee Kyung-mi. For 15 days, a politician and his wife navigate a scandal after their daughter goes missing on the eve of the national elections. Because of the plot, I had some expectations of how this film was going to go, but I did not expect it to be this brutal and intense. It's very emotional, and I couldn't look away from the screen. There were a lot of plot twists in this one, which felt kinda confusing and overwhelming at times, which brought the movie down a bit. But when I caught up, the ending fucked me up. Son Ye-jin, who plays the main character, has really fucking good acting in this movie, and she won some awards for Best Actress, and honestly, good for her because she deserves them. Byzantium by Neil Jordan. Two mysterious women seek refuge in a rundown coastal resort. Clara meets lonely Noel, who provides shelter in his deserted guest house. Eleanor befriends Frank and tells him their lethal secret. They were born 200 years ago and survive on human blood. As knowledge of their secret spreads, their past catches up on them with deadly consequences. I haven't seen any vampire movies, so maybe this is a generic vampire story, but I found it interesting. It's about a mother and daughter trying to survive in the modern world as vampires, and also mixing in some gothic storytelling. I really enjoyed the story, especially learning about their past and how they became vampires. Interview with the Vampire, also directed by Neil Jordan. A vampire relates his epic life story of love, betrayal, loneliness, and dark hunger to an overcurious reporter. This movie has so much homoerotic energy. I mean, half of it is literally about two vampires being dads to their little vampire child. Which, by the way, it was so weird seeing Kirsten Dunst as a child in this movie. Like, I've seen her in Jumanji, but I don't know, the way she looks in this was so fucking unnerving. I kept thinking it was adult Kirsten Dunst. She just doesn't look like a child. Also, weird that Brad Pitt played a queer vampire. Tom Cruise, he seems like he's okay with it, but Brad Pitt? I don't know, something about him tells me he was offered the role in Brokeback Mountain and immediately refused because it's gay. Update, I just googled it, and he was actually one of the actors who turned down the roles for Brokeback, and that's so funny that I was right. Oh wait, actually, my opinion on Tom Cruise changes depending on what movie I'm thinking of. Mission Impossible, he's great, mad respect for him and his stunts. But in The Edge of Tomorrow? I don't know why, but he makes me recoil with his cishet energy in that movie. Anyways, this movie is fucking fantastic. It's campy and hilarious, and it's a fresh take on vampires, and maybe it should be on my best films list. I don't know yet. I guess we'll see at the end of the year. This is the end of the video. Thank the gods I actually finished it because it is so long. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. See y'all next time.